Imagine a cat, furry, cute, and with wings. Yes, you heard right, one of the strangest natural phenomena in history, cats with wings. Starting in the 1930s, people all over the world started claiming to have seen cats with wings. At first it seemed like a joke, but the phenomena just kept happening. Were these cats really flying, or was it a trick of nature? Let's solve this mystery together. Winged cats, very different from the cats we know, but also very similar to them, have been the subject of folktales since ancient times. People claimed that the big cats had supernatural powers. But this time the origin of the story was much more interesting. In the early 1930s, the world was changing. While science was making new discoveries with the rapid advancement of technology, nature was showing itself in different ways. And suddenly, a species of cat soared through the air, or at least that's what people said. The first winged cat sightings were particularly concentrated in rural areas. A man living on a farm said he noticed feathers on his cat's back that looked almost like bat wings. Descriptions of the cat suddenly taking to the air and hovering on the ceiling of the house quickly became popular. Within a few years, similar stories were heard in villages around the world. People thought that these cats had mythical properties, and some even considered them mysterious or sacred beings. Stories about winged cats became so widespread that at some point people began to believe that these cats were evil spirits or supreme beings. In some cultures, these cats became worshipped because people saw them as a kind of healing tool. Flying cats were even thought to be able to drive away bad energies and bring luck to people. Imagine, you see a cat and it suddenly flies past you. How would you feel at that moment? Some people took it as a kind of sign, thinking the flying cat will be an important change in life. But a scientific point of view saw things in a different way. In the late 1930s, scientists began to mobilize to find out whether winged cats really existed. Many studies showed that these stories were not true. But there was one thing: observations were different. While people talked about the hair on cats' backs, some scientists discovered that it was actually caused by skin diseases. So it wasn't true to say that these cats were flying, but the hair on their backs sometimes became very prominent, creating a different image. The cats were actually just moving around with strangely overgrown hairs. So why were these cats like that? It was all based on some kind of genetic anomaly. Some cats, because of their genetic makeup, their skin elongated and grew in a different way. This is actually very rare in nature. And yet, it was so strange and interesting that the public continued to regard these cats as natural wonders. So yes, scientifically there were no flying cats. But the fact that the winged cats remained a folk legend resonated around the world. So was there only one of these cats? No, there were similar stories in many different villages and towns around the world. Some people even called a certain area Winged Cat Town. Many travelers claim to have encountered the same kind of cats on different continents. All these claims made the winged cat legend more than just a folk tale. Some experts have tried to explain the phenomenon on the basis of human optical illusions or a desire to believe in supernatural powers. In the end, cats with wings were really nothing more than a strange joke of nature. Humans have at times struggled to turn imagination into reality. But the story of the winged cat symbolizes the imagination and the human relationship with the natural world. Nature always presents us with surprises. Sometimes these surprises are clarified by scientific explanations, and sometimes they turn into folk legends. Perhaps the winged cats were a turning point in history, showing how nature and man can mingle, how reality and imagination can intertwine. What do you think? Would you like to see a cat with wings? Comment and subscribe to discover the truth behind this legendary story. Who knows, maybe one day you might see one of those cats. Let your imagination run wild and don't forget to subscribe.